Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Bagocast. I'm your host, Chris Anderson. Today I'm with my guest and Dove here.
Hannah, hi.
And so today we're going to be discussing an indie game I've been playing called Mistover. Mistover is an indie roguelike game that's a dungeon crawler JRPG where you explore an infinite amount of dungeons with a timer. So, first impressions of the game. I did like the art style.
Mm-hmm.
That's what drawed me in. It reminded me a lot of Deathmark, a visual novel game, which usually I don't touch those games because there's not much gameplay into them. But the art style drawn me in, so I was like, alright, I'll give this game a shot. And it turns out I love the game. I thought it was pretty dang good. Deathmark. Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned it, but it's called Deathmark. I really go recommend that if you love horror and visual novels. It's great. So I was kind of hoping Mistover would do the same here. It'll lure me in with its great art style, and I'll be amazed by everything else, like the story, the characters, the combat. Sadly, I'm going to drop a bombshell right now. I didn't like the game. Not really, no. Maybe it's just because of me, because I don't really care too much for JRPGs or RPGs in general.
Yeah.
But here, this was a big turn away of more reasons why I don't like JRPGs as much. What's your thoughts on it?
I like the art, like you said. I love the bold, black, thick lines on it.
Oh my god,
It had kind of like a gothic-y comic book style to it. The design of the characters, of the worlds, of the creatures. I think the creatures are... I like the design of a lot of things in it.
Yeah.
I think it's like the artistry is done really well.
If I rate the game alone on art, I'll give it like a 10 out of 10. I love the art style. It's so good.
Even though it's chibi when you battle, and it's more like realistic anime when you're like in town and stuff like that. But like overall, like the art style I think is beautiful. The coloring, the tone, even like the animation of that like mist in that one open map area you show.
Oh yeah.
Like how it flows and swirls around, and I find even how the design of the clock itself that ticks, that lets you know time is running out. I like it a lot. Even in the chibi modes, I think that the characters' moves are pretty interesting to look at. I like each character's style of clothing. Some of the character choices, like why they made a girly, like a girly tank, but she's like really cutesy at the same time. I'm like, that's kind of a new one for me. And then you have this, the healer, which is supposed to look somewhat like a nun, but she's naked under the robe with, like, high stockings and stuff, and she talks like she wants to be hit, and, like, she gets off on that.
Yeah, so she's a masochist, I believe that's what they're called.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, that's the healer. And when she heals you, the sounds she makes, it's like, okay.
All right, so we can wrap the overall graphical appeal. The artery of the game is great. It's very well done. The design, the character,
the monster designs.
Monster designs are very well done. I would say,
God, I like
from
them.
eye candy perspective, it is fantastic.
The creatures are just bizarre looking and disturbing.
Oh
yes, I love that.
Oh yes, I will admit that they are. Great stuff. This game will fit perfectly as a horror game. It almost did, kind of like Dark Souls and Bloodborne could.
Yeah, because of the dark, the creatures you fight, the forest, the evil forest that you're in, the impending fog doom, and just overall art design. It's like you get all this dark doom and gloom.
Yeah, it's just like it fits. It sets the tone, and it's very appealing to look at. But sadly, we can't just rate the game only on graphical quality alone. We have to look at the rest. We have to look at the story, the characters, the gameplay, and everything else. It's just, that's where this game really starts to fall apart. Mostly with the story, I would say. The gameplay also suffers a lot from bad choices, but we'll start with the story first because it's thinner than the Doom's plot. I'm going to put it that way. The Doom's plot can be summarized at angry man wakes up, decides to commit mass genocide on hell because they invaded again. That is literally all it is, and somehow this game has even less of a plot than that.
Well, I mean, to summarize it, some guy in town ends up telling the woman that's, I guess, in charge that he had an ancestor that had a dream of the end of the world was coming. And so happens, your character, when you get up, you have amnesia in the forest and you're rescued. But in the game, you don't even make your own character. You somehow control other characters, but then none of them are representing you, which is confusing.
Yeah, there is no personal involvement in the story because you don't have your own avatar. No. And the character that is supposed to have the amnesia, the paladin, I believe, because she's on the front cover of everything. She has it, but that plot line, so far as I played within like 5 hours of the game, is not really brought up or addressed, and plus you can just kick her out of your party, and so what's the point of that plot line if it's never going to be used, you know?
Yeah.
Like, again, like, if I understand...
Well, they did mention in the story that people that have been in the forest with the fog for too long will lose their memory the more they're exposed to it. But the thing is that when you're in town, people don't really know who you are.
Yeah, I find that weird.
Like you're
what?
brand spanking new. So it's like, so you're an outsider that lost your memory, but you got rescued and sent to this town, and they never really brush up on that again, which is kind of odd.
See, they're trying to do like two different plots. They're trying to say, oh, your character's an outsider, and your character is amnesia. The main reason why a lot of writers go with that plot line is to dump exposition on you. Because, oh, you're new, so we have to somehow convey this information. Like, you learn with the character.
Yeah.
But here, this game should pick one or the other. Does your character have amnesia, where they have to relearn everything again? Or is this character an outsider? Like, say, like,
Well, she can be both, and that's the route that they went.
But
so it's like everyone is being introduced for the first time, and they're trying to help you.
Yeah, or maybe there is other places to go. I'm going to clarify. I did not beat this game because I was not really enjoying it, and the story was just not getting me.
You did get an ending, but not the ending you wanted.
Which we will get to, and that's going to get me really in a very bad mood. I'm going to be honest. Yeah, it's, but it's just like how Bloodborne handles it. Your character is completely an outsider. So that gives the game an excuse to give exposition to you.
Yeah,
And that's why none of the characters know who you are besides you're a hunter. And Dark Souls, your character was locked away, so a lot of things have changed. So, again, that gives them an excuse to explain things. You learn with the character because things have changed. Yeah. Here, where did your character come from? By the looks of it, your character must have came from here because you can buy a paladin, the same character, from that one recruiter. So that means she must have came from here.
Well, this is one thing about the game. You can recruit multiple paladins, multiple healers, multiple of this, but they're only a one design. Only one girl paladin with pigtails, only one pink-haired healer that barely has anything on, only one samurai, like. But when you get new characters, their stats, their moves are randomized.
Actually, we will get to that in later when we talk about the gameplay. That's another thing that really makes me mad.
Right.
So overall, what is the point of this amnesia plot line if it's never gonna be addressed? If the character that has it, you can just toss her out of the party. So
then is she really the main?
No, she's not the main. Who is the main character? I'm not involved into the story because I don't have my own avatar to project myself onto. None of the characters I want to project myself onto because they don't have any character.
And also, too, like in the cutscenes, they're addressing you, the player.
Yeah, me.
But you have no avatar to represent you, so.
Yeah, it's even Deathmark. Let's say the main character. They went with that whole amnesia plot line, so that way you have to learn everything with this character as you progress.
But it was part of the story.
It was part of the story, and he also himself had a personality that changed based on your choices.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that was what they were kind of going for, but they didn't. Maybe they did in later parts of the game, but so far with the 5 hours or so I was playing, nothing. There's not really much investment from me to get into it.
Yeah.
So the story is to me is a bust.
I mean, I would say it's bare bone.
Yeah, very.
I mean, it's an ancestor dreamt of something that's going to happen. It just so happens you're there on the day, and then the rules of the thing that it doesn't really have explain itself very well. I feel that when you go in and you start your dungeon, you gotta activate flowers that make the place brighter. You gotta use food because every time you move, it uses up points because you'll get hungry. You fight enemies. You can collect things. You can find treasures, clothes, all this type of stuff.
Actually, that's another thing that kind of really bothered me. I can understand why killing the monsters and activating these light flowers that push back the darkness. I understand that because the light pushes the darkness, and the monsters that reside in the darkness, you're killing them off.
Yeah, because they're all marching towards the village.
But what I don't understand is why does destroying logs and opening chests also is involved? There is no story reason for that. It's just
the logs are to make easy passage for you,
but for
and also
story-wise,
you get materials.
But again, story-wise, is killing the monsters and lighting the flowers makes sense, but from a story's perspective, it doesn't.
Well, remember, they have lost people in the dungeons,
so
you might be bringing back some of their supplies and stuff that you can use to help you.
I guess that kind of makes sense, but even still, then as the darkness feeds off, it increases more monsters, and it feeds on there is no light here. That's what it feeds off of. But yeah, I don't know how not opening chests and not destroying these logs that are only supposed to open new paths for you feeds it more. That to me makes no sense. I don't know. It just.
Well, yeah, that's a thing too. What we mean by what he's talking about is the clock. The thing that the story does not have, tell you correctly or make it perfectly clear is that when you don't open up as many chests as you can, kill everybody if you can, activate all of the light flowers, basically 100% the maps that you're given. If you cuts if you try to just do the dungeon super fast, don't kill as many, don't collect as many, that will make the clock timer tick, and the more you slack off, the bigger the time clock jump. And when the clock goes all the way up, then you're going to get a cutscene where basically you failed, the wave of fog of death with its minions took over the village and everybody died. But get this, there's a twist.
Oh, I actually saved. No, go ahead. Go and tell it. Go ahead. Yep. No, go ahead.
When you fail, it deletes your file, your save file. So if you do one little mess up, like let's say for example, you unlocked new level dungeons, but you feel like it might be a little bit too hard. So then you go into a dungeon you feel that you might want to grind out. The game will force you to actually, if you level up, you have to do the level that is your number. If you go anything lower, you're going to get a clock penalty, so it says. So if you go, oh crap, I didn't realize that, and you backed out, that's 100% clock time against you, and it's immediate death and deletion.
After it's not immediate death and deletion, yeah, it'll go up dramatically.
It might as well.
Might as well.
Like, it goes up too much.
Yeah, and she knows when that happened, I was pissed. I was mad.
No forgiveness. It's like you mess up and you will get the ultimate death and deletion.
See here, okay, I will give the game credit. It was ballsy of them to do that. To say, it keeps the tension high. It keeps the tension really high, and it tells you really have to explore these dungeons and stuff. And again, it does make sense from a story perspective as well. Like, oh, okay, so there's an impending doom, and the only way to fight back against it is to explore these dungeons, light up these flowers, kill the monsters, get chests, and, explore. So for a story perspective, it does make sense. I admit that is very ballsy of them to do that. But the penalty is too harsh. Yeah. Deleting everything you made. I had some really great equipment on my characters.
Yeah, you put some good time and effort.
And then all of it in the game's like, oh, by the way, you get the bad ending. Oh, your file is completely gone. And I was so mad. And I was actually was going to call quits there. I was like, you know what? I beat the game. I see the credits rolling right now. I'm done. But I know I went back with the game, stuck with it a bit longer. Turns out I really do regret that a bit.
But also, too, because you played it a second time, we found out some more things we did not like.
Yeah, which we will get into. So, yeah, so the whole Doomsday Clock and story, I feel like they should just separate. The Doomsday Clock's fine for, like, as the story progresses, it takes down as to keep the tensions high.
But you don't need to delete the file.
Yeah,
I feel like that should be an option mode.
That should be.
Like a survival mode. If you're somebody that wants to just keep fighting and see how long you can last, have that be a survival mode. But for people that has never really played RPGs and want to be introduced into the franchise, this is too harsh of a punishment that I feel like people are going to be turned off from it.
Yeah, it was. I was very much turned off from it when that happened as well. Because I don't like the idea. Let's say if I put like 50 plus hours into this game, I was doing decently, and I went through one really bad run, and then it was like the Doomsday Clock happened, my characters died. I would lose all 50 hours of that, and I would have been so mad. I probably would. All my blood vessels would pop. I don't like the idea of that happening, so that's why I'm kind of really discouraged of playing this.
All right, and I know a lot of people are probably like, okay, if you're such a high level, why are you having such hell? Okay, there's more things about this game that I feel that they've done wrong. Okay, you're limited to what you can bring in the dungeons. The reason why also is because when you go to your item shop, your important items, you could only buy 5 of them.
Which is so
at a time.
Dumb, because you go through them so quickly.
And the enemies don't even really drop any meat. Like, if they drop anything, it might be bad meat, but that's extremely rare. So if you're going into a dungeon, that every move you take will take your food and take your light away. And you're only allowed to carry 5 good meats, a couple of bad meats, and if you're lucky, the enemies will drop meat, which they barely do, so don't ever really count on that.
Yeah.
And then you have to do all this quota to try and keep the clock from going against you and deleting your file. Yeah, that's too limiting. I feel like that shouldn't be a main difficulty. That should be, like I said, survival mode for people that love the punishment, for people that love that type of intensity. They should make that an option mode. But for people that like to play just regular relaxing RPGs, certain modes like that just needs to not be there. Like, yeah, you can have the clock ticking, but don't delete the file. And have it go back to when the player last saved. So at least and also too, the fact that you keep forcing players to go on the level of, like, if they go to level 4, they can only go from dungeons level 4 and up. They can't go from level 3 to 4, or because 3's there, it's going to be used as a clock punishment against you.
But to be fair, though, I'll add this real quick. To be fair, I actually went back to see what would happen, and it wasn't bad of a punch. I did 100%. I killed all the monsters. I got all the chests, and it acknowledged that I did everything. But since this was a lower level dungeon, it only added like a little more to the adding up to the clock, like a little. It's not a huge punishment, but it is very much of an annoyance.
And that's a thing that I feel like they kind of need to tweak and change. Because if you have, because when you get characters, they're basically armor-wise naked. They have nothing. And you have to rely on the chests that you find in the dungeons, which you have to find the keys, and you have only so many moves with your resources and so much time to be able to do all that, and then hop back into town and rinse and repeat.
Yeah, and that's another thing that really did turn me away from this game was the repetition and the grind and just the dungeons. Yes, they're infinitely generated, but the problem with that they all look the same, and all they do is just move stuff around a bit. All the chests are down on the other side, the traps are down here. I'd rather have a dungeon that has complex layers that requires me to explore it like 4 times at least, maximum 4 times to get everything. But here it's just so. Yeah, it's the first time you look at it, it's like, oh, this looks really nice. But after you do like the third time, you're like, okay, this is really boring looking. It's getting stale quick.
Yeah.
And there's no real secrets to find either. All you can find is chests, maybe other survivors, resources.
There's those weird, like, ghostly looking things that run away from you. I think there's like a blue one and a red one. The red one will be aggressive. The blue one will run away.
Yeah.
Which will unlock, like, a little bit harder monsters, but you're supposed to get, like, I guess better, XP and stuff.
I have no idea,
But they're
honestly.
super hard and... Oh, also, too, another bad thing that really, really we found, why did they do this, was, okay, let's say you killed a bunch of enemies and you're traveling around. All of a sudden, you're being chased by an enemy that looks like black and gray. The gray on the enemy basically means that you've already killed it. So you're basically having enemies you already killed come back to life, chase you, and when you encounter it and kill it, you get no XP and you get no items because you already killed them. So that means that the damage and stuff that they done on you, the resources you used, you're not getting anything to help you survive longer and be in the dungeons more.
Yeah, it's
used against you.
I really hated that. Because, again, items and resources are so limited. Again, you can only carry 5 meats, potions, bandages, and other stuff. Yeah, sure, you can get more as you progress through the dungeon, but you're going to go through that quick. The more times I have ran through my meat quickly.
They need to give a way to where they can give more meat to players to give them more of a chance to be in the dungeons, to do the quotas properly.
You do get polluting meat. That only fills you up like 4 points.
But that's rare too.
And also, eating polluted meat could have a side effect. So your character can move slower, or
poisoned.
Or poisoned. Your defense goes down. You're bleeding somehow.
Yep.
Again, like you said, if this was survival mode, I think I'd be enjoying it a lot more. But it's not. This is the main game, and it's so discouraging.
Yeah, it does. It does everything that I feel like when it comes to like I've played a lot of RPGs, and the choices of that people have made with RPGs, there are good choices and bad choices, and I feel like a lot of choices in this specific game is too harsh with its punishments, too limited with its resources, and it asks the most out of you when it's very hard to even survive, because also, like I said, you start off with no armor, and you rely only on chests. And when you level up faster, then you get actual like accessories and stuff for your gang. And also too, you can also get accessories for other characters you don't even have on your team. And then, so then your characters are leveling up, but not everybody has armor or a weapon or accessories.
Actually,
it forces you to go forward, and you will notice there's going to be level difficulty jumps.
Yeah, that's how I died the first time, because when I was playing it, I reached let's see here, the second level dungeon from the forest. I out leveled it. So I was like, okay, but not all my characters are equipped properly. So I clicked on it and found out, if you play through this again, you will get a penalty. So I was like, okay, I'm already very close of Doomsday Clock, so I will just go to the next one. Hopefully things won't go so sour. It did. The first enemies I encountered, I had to run away, and that's when the Doomsday Clock, and that's when my files were erased. They should not... Again, the punishment is not necessary.
No.
They need to get rid of it. All they have to do to equal this out is say, you will not get very much experience anymore. Your experience points will go down by a lot, but you can still get good items, but your experience point is not very high.
Yeah, because in an RPG, you want to get all your gear for your team, so that way you can have all the stat bonuses, raise your defense, raise your attack. Give your characters a time to get some gear with their level. The game rushes you so freaking fast, and if you can't take the punishment, you're gonna immediately get a deletion, and it's like, No, that no one's going to want to play your game like that. Like, I can't see people wanting to play this game for a very long time with constant deletions. You put your heart and soul into trying to build your team for everything to be deleted because of a bad decision or a really, really harsh playthrough because the game forces you to fight things you're not ready for.
Oh, yeah. Now, and things just keep getting worse from here. This game keeps adding more layers of dumb crap on top of an already hard game. Like, okay, so here's the thing. Later on in the game, when your characters level up to a certain point, you get these jinx on your character, these jinx. Now, first of all, I have no idea what they did until I read them. What these jinx do is kind of like a disability to your character. Like, if you have like this movement jinx, it'll decrease your character's speed by 10%, or your attack rate will go down, your chance of hitting will also go down, your evasion will go down, and yeah, it's so annoying because first of all, when you go into combat and you have that, it makes combat way more harder and more tedious to the point where I was using up so much resources by the time I was done playing this game that I was really dreading going forward. Now, you can change these jinx. You can go to this one guy and you can give him resources that will change his jinx. But here's the thing. They botched that up too. Instead of like just saying, oh, you have a jinx, I can change this jinx into a good thing. No, it's a random chance where you can change that jinx into a very positive buff. Like, you can change that jinx that go from a 10% speed decrease to a 10% speed increase. Mm-hmm. But you also run the chance of that decrease becoming something else.
Something even worse.
Something even worse. Oh, your health slowly depletes if your hunger is below 50%.
Oh yeah, there was something like your character will bleed if a certain thing happens. It's like nope. Like,
yeah, and it's
stuff
just
like that.
And you can change it so many times and only keep getting continuously terrible jinx. Yeah. And you're wasting up so many resources doing so. By the time you use the last of your resources, you could end on a terrible jinx. Like, you bleed if you're below 50%.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. I do not like that.
No.
Like I said, everything else, the whole managing your hunger and resources is already a pain as it is. If a character dies, their equipment becomes cursed, which that means it gives them debuffs that will really hurt the next character who equips them. Mm-hmm. And as far as I'm aware, you can't get rid of it. That's forever there. And it just adds unnecessary layers of bullcrap on there.
Alright, and now this is going to lead to another bad one that really upsetted us. When a character dies on the field, let's say, like, your character ended up getting bleed and you ran out of bandages, or your character does not have enough power to be able to remove it, and your character just dies. They're removed from your party. There's no, like, Phoenix down, resurrect, nothing. Your character is gone. And like you said, the gear you end up getting is going to be a cursed item. So yet again, you got to go purchase another member. And if you purchase the same member that you lost, you'll end up noticing, hey, it's the same character, same name, but all the moves are different. Their moves are randomized.
That's so stupid, because that ruins my entire strategy, and that the chances of their moves being absolutely dog poo-poo is 70% of a chance of that. It's so ridiculous. Why not just give me the option? Yeah, sure, charge me 5,000 gold to resurrect my old partner at least, because I liked what they had. What these new guys, what they have, sucks.
Yeah, and also, too, they will be under level to the rest of your surviving team. So then there will always be, all the points you put into the previous character is gone. So then you got to redo it all over again with this new character that has a moveset that you're not going to like. And the later stuff that they can unlock will probably still be different, or some might be the same as your previous character. But still, it's still randomized. You're not going to get the same layout as you were comfortable with.
And also, another thing is, I think I would be hurt more if say if a character dies, if I could customize how they look as well. There's another thing I did not like is that, I guess each character is very well designed for the most part, but you could not customize their look. Say you gave them a new armor, that it doesn't change the look at all. They look exactly the same. So there is no attachment you can get to these characters.
Yeah, and there's no color differentiations between any of them. It's just the same set of characters. And that's it. Like the color, like when you see a picture of all the characters together, that's them. That's all they look like.
That's all.
There's no variety.
Yep.
So you got to get used to that.
Yeah, there's nothing.
That's a problem.
Oh man, there's another thing I want to bring up about the dungeon crawling, because this is a dungeon crawler, by the way. It is. I'm not sure if we mentioned it. It's a dungeon crawler.
Yeah, go to town, get what resources you can, pick up missions, go back in a dungeon.
Collect
everything, go back to town, rinse and repeat.
What was it? It was a. Oh, it's another thing. It really does annoy me. Shoot. Oh boy. My head. I'm so full of anger with this game.
What was the topic?
I think it had to do something with a bit of the dungeon crawling and combat. It did have to do something with a bit of the combat, which I guess is any good as any time to jump into that. Yeah. I guess when we talk about the combat, it'll come back to me, because right now I'm just full of just annoyance and anger with this game that I can't think straight.
Okay.
So let's talk about the combat. That's actually the one great thing about this game. Okay, second, it's actually very well done. There's actually a lot of strategy to it. The formation of your characters and the party really does matter.
I do like that they add that little where you position your party members next to each other or above each other. They can do combination special moves.
And like say, if you put your character in the far back, they have a better chance of evading, I believe. If you put them in the middle, they have a better chance of defending. If you put them in the far front, they have a better chance of their attacks landing.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. It gets you're really strategize, and with character combinations, it really does get you to think a lot more about that.
I think I know what it is. Sometimes when you do certain moves, or when enemies do certain moves to you, they will move your characters around than when you adjusted them.
Oh, that to me is so annoying. Sometimes it's not even them. Sometimes it's the jinx I have.
Yeah.
And that ruins my entire formation. And I'm just like, okay, you gotta waste time moving them back. Like, my characters too also has that move, so I guess it makes it fair. But I think what I'm more annoyed about is the jinx doing that. I think I'm more annoyed about that. It's just there's
also too, let's say there's an option where you can place your characters where you want them on the battlefield, on your side of the battle.
Yeah.
Right? And you can save it. So then you go in the midst of a battle, characters get moved around, you run around, and then you go into your next fight. It's going to remember how your characters was positioned in the previous fight, not the way you set it. And there is no options to auto reset your characters to the way you want them to be in the beginning of battle. You have to manually remember to do that every single time after a fight.
It came back to me now. I just finally remembered it, and that did help out. Okay, when you're dungeon crawling and you get new items, you're kind of like that little hub dungeon crawling where you're exploring around.
Oh yes.
You can get new items. You can get new armor, weapons, and stuff.
Yeah.
Here's the really annoying part: is that when you get it, you can't switch to it.
Yeah,
you have to leave town, go to the shopkeeper, or go to the menu.
No, you gotta leave the dungeon to go to town.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You gotta go to town and go to the shopkeeper, or go to your menu and equip it there. So that means if you're in the dungeon, you get this really powerful weapon that you want to equip right now. You can't. So that means if you go through, you're gonna go through this dungeon with this weapon that may be ineffective towards, like, say, the boss.
Oh, also too, your inventory. Now that I remember, you're limited to how much you can hold, and that includes your armor.
Actually, you can increase inventory by finding those books, which are randomly placed around all the areas, but you can increase it. But I get that. That's really annoying still. It's
yeah, but like we said, the game rushes you to go through things, and it gives you such a disadvantage. You need to try and collect everything you can with such little resources, with such little, level kind of against you, because they may be around the same level as you or maybe higher, but there are definitely like level jumps of difficulty between certain enemies I have seen which I feel is completely unfair, especially since your characters barely have anything on, and then you have something that might make your adventure a little bit easier or might actually rescue you, and you can't until you get back to town.
Yeah, and also, here's another thing that also just
And I
popped
don't
in.
understand why.
This is also another thing that really did annoy me. The boss fight. Now, remember how I said that the dungeons are randomly generated?
Yes.
That means the boss and the exit point are also moved. So that means, let's say the first time you go to this boss fight, it didn't go so well, so you leave, like, okay, so let's bring all these resources and go back again. But the thing is, though, the moment you check that same spot again to find the boss, it's not there.
It's somewhere else.
So by the time you find it, you're going to waste all of your resources by the time you get there. Even if you try your best to ignore the enemies,
they will chase
even if you do kill them, like we said, they come back, and that's
And you get
super
nothing.
annoying.
And you get nothing for it.
Yeah, you get nothing. If they at least give you some potions back, that'd be appreciated. But
I
no,
would
no.
love it if they gave meat or something. Dang nabbit.
Something. So by the time you get to the boss, you're going to be exhausted of resources. Instead of putting the boss somewhere easy to find,
Or have a marker or something.
or a marker
on the
where
map.
it is, then yes. I don't think I'll be as annoyed, but no. So when I fought the boss, it was a really uphill battle. The boss health was so big, and by that time I had like so little health points. Like majority of my teammates were close to death. Actually, I think one of them did die. And that's when I found out that the character dies. Well, your items are cursed, and it was just no. This is not fun. So when I beat the boss, I unlocked the next areas. And I looked at I gave a huge sigh. I was like, that's when it clicked on me. I'm not having fun.
No.
What I've looked forward to, 3 more dungeons that are going to be, yes, maybe when we go into them, they're going to be different, but they're just going to repeat themselves after that with the same bullcrap, probably even more stupid rules, with even more harder enemies. If I die, I have to go all the way back. So I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'd rather do my 10-page essay than do this game. That may be really harsh, because it is, but it's just, if this was, like we said, if this was survivor mode and the main campaign was just very well structured game like Diablo 2, I would have a lot more fun. Yeah, the story might still suck, but at least there's another separate. Hey, hardcore audience, if you really want to keep the tensions high and really punish yourself, play this mode. But for all the people who just want to have a fun RPG with dungeon crawling in it, here you go.
Yeah, that wants to see the story.
This is not the Dark Souls and Bloodborne conundrum. Oh, there must be a difficulty selection. No, it's not that. Because Dark Souls and Bloodborne, yes, those games are cruel, but they're fair.
They don't delete your file.
They don't delete your file. Yes, your weapons can be destroyed, but you can always easily just go back, grind up for blood echoes, souls, get your stuff back. It's not that huge of a big deal. But this game, oh yeah, it's a huge deal. Like say, you put 50 hours, you had a really bad run, like 2 bad runs, all over. 50 hours gone, wasted.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's just wrap this review up. Alright. So at first, admittedly, when I was done playing the game, I was thinking about giving like a 5 out of 10, because I did really enjoy the combat.
And the art.
And the art style, yeah, those are like the 2 things I really did enjoy.
Oh, I did like the song.
The music was good. The music was decent.
Oh, the fighting.
But with everything else, the story, the characters, the rules, the intuitive designs, it's just the very restricted resources. And it's I was just not having fun. I don't see myself going back to this game anytime soon.
It feels punishing in too many categories.
Yeah, too many
and
categories.
The delete was just the finishing.
Yeah, it was a finishing blow. So
Yeah.
I'm honestly going to give this game a 4 out of 10. I'm sorry, developers, if you're hearing this review. This game was just not to my liking. It's just maybe I don't know, I'm just too frustrated right now.
And-
Final thoughts for this.
Well, for me, like I said, I've played a lot of JRPGs, and the fighting mechanics is good. Very creative. How things are positioned, like a chest on a board. I loved that mechanic. Like, those were done well. The story was a bit lacking, but I mean, it got to the point. Bad things happening. Push it back. Get resources. There you go. If there's an actual good, true ending, we could not get to it because the game is too punishing.
Yeah, it's too harsh.
And if you're new to RPGs, I would not recommend this game at all.
Yeah.
For newcomers.
Yeah, definitely not newcomer friendly. Even with easy mode, I don't think I can even recommend this game because, again, the idea of losing everything is
too punishing.
Is too punishing. Again, that should be like a separate mode or separate difficulty that you can pick. But yeah, so what's your rating on the game? What's your rating?
I would give it the same as you. I would say probably close to like 3 or 4 out of 10. The reason why is, like I said, I've played a bunch of different type of RPGs, and this was an RPG that I felt was too punishing and made too many choices that I felt were more harsh than help. And if they took actually these things we complained about away, or tweaked some of them, like I said, like give more meat, don't have the shop girl only allow you to have like 5 health things. It's like, no, you need to let us, if we have the coins, let us buy as many as we feel. Don't lock us away from it, because it's too, it's a handicap. I feel like the player is always handicapped to give an illusion of difficulty, and then you're punished if you can't keep up with it. And that's not fun for most people.
Yeah, it's not. So
if you want to get a brighter audience and have people have actual fun playing, the game, and because the fighting mechanics when you're jumping between characters and how you position and what moves you do, it's very strategic. It's really well done. But all these things that are punishing, that works really against the player, is major turnoffs when it comes to if players are going to like it or dislike it. You have great art, you have great battle mechanics, story, but too punishing.
Yeah, so that's our thoughts on the game. Thanks to modern, software and Steam and with updating games, thanks to that, they can actually patch this game up. They can actually fix it. A lot of the problems that we have, like not entirely. The story is set in stone. There's nothing they can really do to fix it.
They could probably add more to it.
They could with I guess with DLCs and stuff. But honestly, I don't think I'm going to go torture myself.
Or more like you could only go to certain buildings, and then I think there's other buildings you never even really go to in the town. I mean, they could add more into those, like more shops or more lore. Add more to them.
Yeah. So, but with that, this gives them an opportunity to fix it. So, what RPGs or JRPGs, man, in this fact, could they look at to say, okay, so this is how they did it. Maybe we should take inspiration from this and add that to our game so it's more thrilling for our audience?
That's a good question.
Because you played a lot more JRPGs than I have. I barely touched those, so I feel like you're more of an expert on these than I am. Definitely.
Yeah, since I think JRPGs was a thing, I've been playing a lot of them. I have, I guess, been very lucky in playing the best JRPGs and haven't played the bad ones. But as far as from what I've seen, it depends. I mean, like I said, they had a good idea somewhat, but the punishments were if you want a good story, God, to take stuff off of, I mean, the Final Fantasy franchise are known for good storytelling. They've been kind of from being really good to questionable on and off throughout the years, but I mean, solidly they've been mainly story driven, which has players that love stories really locked in, wanting to see what's going to happen next. Like, this game does not have that. It does not pull you in and make you want to love the characters and try to root for them to figure out what the heck's going on. You don't get that feeling from this game. But if they wanted that, Final Fantasy's pretty good with its story. Also, too, it's good with a story and pace. Legends of Legaia, the first one. Um, how they had certain levels breaking down, how enemies were introduced. I mean, even that story, Legends of Legaia itself deals with like a fog thing and death, and your character's going out for resources. And it's a turn based thing that stars only 3 characters. I feel like if they wanted to take inspiration off of how a story's done that deals with fog and death, Legends of Legaia for PlayStation 1, I would definitely suggest play that. It's really, really good and it's really good paced.
But let's actually talk about like how like design wise. I feel like again the story is mostly just set as is unless they add more DLC. But like design, gameplay design, managing equipment and stuff like that. Like
Okay,
what?
when it comes to managing equipment, another game that I feel that's really good, like especially like if you add crafting, like if you take certain materials and you can craft your own stuff to specialize against certain creatures and stuff like that. Vagrant Story, the way that they have their their shop when you go throughout the map and you encounter like a shop that you can build your own weapons, and the materials you use and what you combined, you can make weapons that are like really powerful against dragons or really powerful against the undead. And like they could add that type of mechanic that like how Vagrant Story did it throughout the 4 characters you can, was it 4 or 5 characters you can control?
Actually, you can control up to I believe about 6 to 8. I believe.
No, on the battlefield they only allow you to have a certain number.
Oh yeah, at the time, so you find more books to increase that number. I think the max number is by me like 6, I think, or more. I honestly don't know. It's been a while since I touched the game because time has seriously passed by since then.
But yeah, so Vagrant Story for that.
Actually, I have one. This game is a dungeon crawler, and there's a dungeon crawler I actually do really enjoy. Despite me not being hugely into RPGs or much of dungeon crawlers, there is one that I did love when I was younger and I played a lot with my brother and dad. It is Diablo 2. Now that is a classic. That game's an absolute classic. It has flaws, but it's great. See, here what it does right. It also does have this whole thing of the infinite, generated worlds and dungeons and stuff like that. It does have that, but it does it better. Do you know how?
How?
It actually adds those secrets you can find. Let's say your first playthrough of the game, you go through it and you go to this particular dungeon. First time you go through it, there is no real secrets to it. Yeah, you can explore it, maybe find some extra treasures and stuff like that. But let's say your next playthrough of the game, you go through the game the second time, you go back to that same dungeon, they've added secrets to it now. Mm-hmm. This dungeon now, swapped a bit, some assets are different, but now you can find, like say, this rare golden chest that's sparkling. When you open it, you find, loot, this very rare loot. One time, I got this armor that was the color green. Now, since you don't really know this, I would break it down. Their armor is rated on color. White is normal. Gray means it's weak. Blue means it's enhanced. Yellow means it's rare. And green means ultra rare, as in it's very powerful. So I found like this quilt that had like 100 defense at the beginning of the game. Oh, and that thing's durability was strong. I was an absolute beast throughout the majority of the game. It was great. So to me, that gives it replay value. I was like, oh, so it means every time I play this game now, it's going to be a bit different.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is where Mistover failed. Is that by having it limited about the amount of chests you can get each round and not really adding any secrets you can find, makes it, not as fun. And also, I think would have helped if there was a bit more of a bigger of exploration. In Diablo 2, when you explored, it was fun. It's not a complete open world, but it's big enough where I can kind of feel like it. And so there's a lot to explore, and next time you go back through the game, it's going to feel different because they mix things around, and it's just there's there. I'm not asking Mistover to be this open world game, but I feel like if they add like a more of a hub world that you can or a world that you can explore and find secrets and go down dungeons that change when you go back to them, I think I'd be more fun with that. But this, not so much. I feel like that's something they can really look at from Diablo 2.
Also, too, I feel like they can take from Star Ocean. What I'm thinking of is, like I was saying, there's a couple of buildings that doesn't get used in towns, and they could make them something useful, like adding a coliseum to where you can battle, level your characters up, win rewards, win money, probably get like more ways of getting gear without making the clock tick. They can add even like another area that's like a fun area away from the main story, where you can try and get unlock more gears, like funny little mini games to try and get ways to try and get more items, because it's just too limiting. I mean, they can add more.
They could
to help it, and they can change certain things to save it. So more people would feel more comfortable to play it. Because the way it is right now, I don't think too many people are gonna want to get it.
And also, another thing I believe I forgot to mention real quick is that leveling up is automatic, so there's not much really strategic things you can do with your character. You can't, play around with their stats.
It's not like Dark Souls.
No, it's not like not even Diablo 2. Another thing I really loved about it is that you can really play around with your character's stats and have like this infinite amount of characters you can create because of that. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, you make this barbarian, but you put a lot of points into his defense, so he's like a tank. Or next playthrough, you can make him more of a DPS, because you can mess around with the stats a lot.
Yeah, this you can't.
You can't. It's automatic. So I feel like that's another thing they can really look at how Diablo 2 handled it, because Diablo 2 depends what points you put in your stats and abilities will change what abilities you can later unlock and use.
Yeah.
That's something I think will also add a lot of replay value to Mistover if they look at this. Like, oh, okay, so we do this, it'll add a lot more. Instead of just randomly giving players different moves, how about we give them set moves, and if they were to level, like say put 5 points in this move and 5 points in this move, they unlock this new move, that'd be very cool. Again, adding a lot more.
Yeah, a lot more.
So Diablo 2 is a really great place to start looking at.
Yeah.
Armor-wise, when it comes to like inventory-wise, Diablo 2 also handled that very well, where you increase your inventory by putting belts on. Mm-hmm. So first belt, like you don't have like one layer, put another belt on, you put a different belt on, it's better, you have like 3 layers now. It does require you to keep an eye on your inventory, but if let's say your inventory is full, you can easily just drop items and you come back to it later if you need to be.
Yeah, I mean, they could implement that as in like something that's expensive in the shop and it comes once in a while.
Yeah.
Based off of your level. I mean, like, there's ways that they can do certain things that will make it fair. I think that's one of the big problems about the game, is that it feels unfair.
Yeah.
Especially to people that would be new to RPGs.
Yeah, and again, going back to Diablo 2 here, it also had its own difficulty mode, like normal, easy, hard, and then there was nightmare mode. Where nightmare mode essentially is, well, all your equipment from the last playthrough means diddly squat now, so have fun with that. And it's like here, I feel like they should have done something of similar, instead of, when you go back through the game, it's, I don't know, where am I going with this? Difficulty management, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's just, Diablo 2 is great. Don't play the third game. The third game just outright just sucks. But that's a podcast for another time, I guess, for me. Well, actually, more of a review, because you never really played the game.
Nope.
You watched me play it, but yeah. So Diablo 2 is definitely a really great place to look at. Another game I think they should look at is Final Fantasy a lot. Like you said, Final Fantasy is another great way to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
With all the characters, armors. There's a lot of areas they can look. I know I'm sorry we're not going to be completely in depth with this. It's just talking about the game was very draining. So this podcast may not be as long as our other ones. This is mostly just a review podcast, to be honest.
Yeah, because it's like there's some potential to it, but if they fix certain things, add certain things, then I feel like the score for the game would definitely go up. and a lot more people would want to buy it and give it a try and not be scared off by the bad, choices that they
Yeah. So, okay, let's just get off Mistover then, because clearly we are running on fumes talking about this game.
There's nothing more good or bad that we can really say. It's just more of a letdown.
Yeah, letdown, and the games, we did offer games for the developers to take a look at to really improve the game. So let's actually talk about JRPGs and Western RPGs that we can recommend and why we want to recommend them.
Oh, for people that are very first trying the RPG?
First trying, or just genuinely enjoys them, and they want to find something new.
Okay.
So I am more of the Western RPG because it's more of a fast pace on the action with light stats management and stuff like that. You play a lot more of the JRPG.
Yep.
Aside the story that I really don't like as my own reasons. What are some JRPGs that you can recommend and why?
Honestly, I think that you should go first, and then I can give mine because I have more on my list than you.
Alright, that's fair enough. Actually, I do have at least 2 JRPGs that I do want to recommend.
Okay.
It's Dragon Ball Xenoverse. I know it's not much of one because it's more of a fighting game with RPG elements, but you do manage your stats, your armor, your power skill set.
And you can play it offline, single player, and that definitely makes
sense. That's great. It's more of a kind of an MMO-ish RPG.
Single player?
Yeah, that one I do recommend. It's easy to understand. It's not too hard to think about.
And if you're fans
of Dragon Ball, it's pretty much fan fiction, the video game. Like, you can fight with Goku. You're the same power level as Goku. You fight the gods. The gods are like, wow. No, you're no ordinary person. You're a genius. Like, the game really strokes your ego hard. It really does. Like, actually, in the DLC, you can actually fight Ultra Instinct Goku, and you can beat him. The game's like, wow, you are like the most powerful being in the universe. Like I said, it really strokes your ego. But then we go into a competitive match, you get your butt whooped by a Cyberman, and it's just really embarrassing. So, but yeah, I actually can recommend those two, because again, it's a fighting game. I do like those 3D brawler fighting games with a mixture of, RPG elements in there, with an MMO elements. I do find that game enjoyable. I do. So with those two, and plus since it's all, real-time combat, I can recommend even more from that.
What's the second one?
It's like, both of them are Dragon Ball Xenoverse.
But both 1 and 2?
1 and 2. Honestly, on second thought, change that to both of them to 1, because Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 essentially is
the continuation of
the continuation. It is essentially the first game. Just a bit
Part
more.
2.
Part 2, because they reuse a lot of the same side missions from the previous game. Even some of the main missions are repeated, and some of the story beats are also repeated. It's just that
it's kind of like when you're waiting for the Dragon Ball Z next episode a week later, and they're doing that caption. Remember last time on Dragon Ball
Goku
Z.
punched Frieza in the face 5 times, and Frieza punched Goku in the kidney 2 times.
And it only took a month for you to see all that.
Yeah, but we're gonna do it again.
Reminder.
Yeah, because you guys apparently enjoy that. Like, seriously, do you know how long that fight scene actually is? It was like 3 hours. 3 hours, I believe. That's an entire season's worth.
Christ.
Okay, so
that's like a year's worth.
Yeah. Okay, so we're getting a little off topic. Here we are. Oh, actually, okay, there's another JRPG that I did really enjoy. It's from my childhood. I loved it. It's Kingdom Hearts, the Kingdom Hearts franchise. 1 and 2, I can really recommend because it's fast-paced action, it's real-time. It has Disney characters, it has Final Fantasy characters.
Oh, that's why I hopped on that boat. The moment I heard that there's Final Fantasy characters, I was like, I gotta see this.
Yeah, it's just, I really can recommend that. I loved it. Even though the story does not hold up, so convoluted, and the dialogue is bad. Like, the dialogue can kind of go like this. Oh, Riku, darkness, darkness, friendship, darkness, heart, darkness, friendship, darkness, Riku, darkness. It's...
That's basically the story in a nutshell.
It's Kairi, darkness, Riku. It repeats itself. It's just...
With the power of friendship, darkness.
It's
like, what?
The gameplay is fun. It's lighthearted. You kids will love it. I still love the game despite the story being... bad.
Okay, spoiler warning real quick, but number 3, does not have Final Fantasy characters in it. I ain't getting that thing until you put back the Final Fantasy characters. I don't care what Disney said.
Yeah, so I agree there. I'm not going to get the third game until they add those Final Fantasy characters. They don't have a Sephiroth boss fight in there.
That's a sin.
That's a staple in in that game. Sephiroth being the hardest gothic boss that you fight, and he has this bullcrap powers, like, I'm going to teleport 50 miles away, use this angel magic that's going to take away all of your MP and all of your health, and I can kill you in like 3 swipes. It's bullcrap, but if every time
It's fun, though.
It's fun because it really
challenges.
Okay, we're getting seriously off topic. Kingdom Hearts itself is a topic of its own on one day for our podcast. But yeah, so that's another JRPG I can really recommend because it's just a lot of fun. It's lighthearted. It's Disney, Final Fantasy. You can't go wrong with that. Oh, actually, you can, but
1, 2, and the one that's in between 1 and 2. What is it? Birth by Sleep?
Change of Memories.
Is that the
cards? The one that use the cards?
No. The one that you end up seeing the story before number 2, before he went to sleep. It's the story that led to him going to sleep.
Yeah,
that's the opening for number 2.
Yeah. That's Chains of Memories.
Oh, it is?
Yeah,
is that the one where you get to play not only Sora, but you get to play Riku?
Yes, that's Chains of Memories.
Yeah, that one. I would say 1, 2, and that to me, from what I've played, story-wise, is really well done. And I love the fact that the first playthrough you play as Sora, but the second playthrough you play as Riku, and you get to see certain things behind the scenes. I thought was really well done.
Yeah, okay. So like I said, Kingdom Hearts, own podcast for one day. But back to the recommendation. Okay, that's my JRPGs I can recommend, but now I'm going to get into the Western RPGs that I do really enjoy. So if you want a game that's brutal and it's hard, but you love it because it's so satisfying to always kill the enemy or kill the boss after the 50th time it turns into paste. I really do recommend the Dark Souls franchise or Bloodborne. I recommend Bloodborne more because it's Lovecraft theme. The environment's so unique. The story's so interesting. The combat's fast paced. Now all the RPG elements has been streamlined a bit. There is no weapon item burden. You can carry as many stuff as you want, really.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I can really recommend those. If you want zombies, if you really do enjoy zombie games, but wish there's leveling up system, I really do recommend Dying Light. Not only does it have parkour, which I'm always a sucker for parkour. I love parkour in games. You know, jump around like Spider-Man and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
I'm a huge sucker for that, and plus with the RPG elements, it's really fun because you can drop kick zombies. You can unlock that and go whoop, boosh, and that's cool. I'm trying to think here. I do kind of want to recommend The Evil Within. The game is really challenging, but it's fair, and you can upgrade your character in that game. So there's another zombie survival horror game that's on RPG like.
Yeah.
The Infamous franchise. I love Infamous. The superhero games, superhero RPGs, Infamous, and Spider-Man. And Batman. Let's put Batman on there. Because those games are really well done. Again, not super deep RPG levels as the later games that you're probably going to go into.
Yeah, the JRPGs.
The JRPGs. But, you know, they work very well for what they are. I'm trying to think, anything else on my list? If you just want the most basic RPG of just simply upgrading your guns little by little, upgrading the damage, or adding an alternate fire and want the fast pace and don't give a damn about story, play Doom. Play Doom 2016. It does have RPG elements in there, mostly just for the guns and your health and your armor. But story, who needs it? Characters, what's that? All you need is Doomslayer, guns, and heavy metal. That's all you need. So for me, and also Diablo 2. I already talked a lot about it. Diablo 2, that's another one I can really recommend. For some of you who are wondering why I haven't mentioned Skyrim or any of the Elder Scrolls or Fallout, it's because I never played them. I never did. I never really got into them. I looked at them and was like, not my thing. But if you're looking for just fast-paced Western RPGs, those are the games I really do recommend checking out. Alright, Dove, so what JRPGs do you really recommend?
Well, there's a couple of them, and they're kind of different. I mean, the Final Fantasy franchise, I've played from 7 all the way to 14, and I would say 7 and 8.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely for turn-based. Pick your moves. You know, my turn, enemy's turn, my turn type thing. I would say Final Fantasy 7 and 8 have great stories, great mechanics, just all around great. And there's also side stuff that's really good. I would say an old classic that I really love is Legends of Legaia 1. I played 1 and 2, but I recommend 1 for people that would start out with RPGs. It's really good pacing, really interesting fighting mechanics, really interesting designs. I mean, it's just overall really well done, and I love the music as well. Also, too, you actually see not only is your weapons changing, but your character's physical clothes will actually change, which you don't see too much in RPGs, so that is a welcome. If you're into RPGs where your character, you just want a one character to control, and basically you're like a one-man army with an RPG type style, Vagrant Story. Like I mentioned before, it has great mechanics. Instead of controlling multiple characters, you control a character, but you can make specialized weapons and stuff that you need, and the music and the storytelling is beautiful. If you're into a more like if you like kind of like army-ish type style shooters, but kind of like a anime fantasy twist on it, I would recommend Valkyrie Chronicles, the first one.
I'm gonna be honest, Dove. A lot of these games that you're mentioning, I have never once heard of.
Well, one of these days, I'm going to have you try some of them.
The only one I'm really kind of curious trying about is Final Fantasy VII, because I've heard a lot about that game.
Yeah,
that's a huge classic. People seem to love it.
Yeah, that's
so
one of
that
my
is
top.
one of them I'm going to have to play. Maybe in a new series called First Encounter. We'll see about that. But yeah, a lot of these. So when some of these kind of since they're more unknown, we just have these kinds that are kind of a bit have a required taste to get into. Because I notice of JRPGs is that they are very long games.
Well, yeah, that's a thing. Like, if you're a person that loves story, like you love having stories being told to you, or you like movies, these games are basically like that, but you can control the pace. And they're really well done stories, beautiful music. In all honesty, a lot of these games that I recommend, it would be nice to actually see a remastered or a remake. Keep all the mechanics. Do not change one thing of the mechanics, but if you wanted to update the graphics or anything like that, I would love to see that. Also too, if you want a fantasy there's a game that I've played that literally you can have 50 characters on your team, and that's from Chrono Cross. And this is a game that has multiple endings and multiple ways that you can approach it to unlock all 50 characters. And the music from start to finish I found absolutely charming. And the character's design, if I understood right, is designed by the same guy that made Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, really? So,
or I know the first one definitely is, but I'm not 100% sure if the second one, Chrono Cross, is, but I believe if it's not designed by him, it was based after his design.
I believe his name is Akira Toriyama, I believe, the guy who's designed Dragon Ball Z. So
yes,
if he did Dragon Ball Z and he did this,
he did the first one. I know that, but I believe he might have done 2, or it was based off of his work in number 1. But I know that from my understanding, 1 and 2 is in the same world. It's just years apart.
Okay. So I guess I have to check that game out eventually, because anything by him I do want to check out, because I do love Dragon Ball Z. So
it's just his art style. You know, you're gonna have characters with spiky hair. I mean, the main character.
That's honestly a staple on Japan. It is okay. All of you guys who are into anime, you cannot deny that spiky hair is a trope for anime characters.
I've seen in real life. I've seen some Japanese men have their hair spiked and bleached, and they're good looking. Man, they know fashion. They draw it on their characters. They really dress like that. I was like, holy cow! Thumbs up. They got good taste.
All right. So let's wrap this up then with some upcoming Western and JRPGs that we are looking forward to. Shoot, actually, I don't think there's any that I'm looking forward to. There's none. I can't think of any top of my head.
I know one for me immediately is
Final Fantasy VII Remake. Yes, yeah. You have non-stop talk. But it's like, hey, can we get this game, please? Can we get the deluxe edition?
Oh, yeah. There is a game that I forgot to mention. It's another classic, but it's from Capcom. And I recommend Breath of Fire 1 and 2. The reason why I lump 1 and 2 together is the story actually is linked. Number 2 is in the same world, and you actually get to play as, I believe some of the characters may actually be offspring of the original 1. So I say the story is pretty well done. It's a turn-based game. The graphics are beautiful. And I was entertained from start to finish. So that's another game I would recommend for people that want to start out.
Awesome. That's great. So there you guys go. That's our thoughts on Mistover, a game that had a lot of potential to be something really cool, but was blundered by poor choices. We did give some games they can look at to improve. And as well, we gave our recommendations of what games you guys should take a look at.
Yeah.
So, thanks for joining us here. This is Chris Anderson signing off.
See you guys later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.